Good morning. I'm Randy White coming to you this morning from my office at First Baptist Church of Katy with a good word from the Word. And today I want to look at Second Chronicles chapter 22 beginning in verse 10, verses 10 through 12 says, "Now when Athaliah, the mother of Ahaziah, saw that her son was dead, she rose and destroyed all the royal offspring of the house of Judah. But Jehoshebeath, the king's daughter, took Joash, the son of Ahaziah, and stole him from among the king's sons who were being put to death, and placed him and his nurse in the bedroom. So Jehoshebeath, the daughter of the king of Jehoram, the wife of Jehoiada, the priest, for she was also a sister of Ahaziah, hid him from Athaliah so that she would not put him to death. And he was hidden with them in the house of God 6 years, while Athaliah reigned over the land." Well, Second Chronicles chapters 22 and 23 really read like a soap opera. You see, there was King Jehoram, who was of the line of David, of the promised line of David, who married Princess Athaliah. Athaliah was the daughter of Ahab and Jezebel, whom perhaps you remember were the most wicked king and queen of the northern tribe of Israel. And so the king of Judah marries the daughter of the wicked king and queen of Israel. Jehoram marries Athaliah. Jehoram and Athaliah had a son named Ahaziah. And after Jehoram's death, Ahaziah became king, but his mother Athaliah continued to live as the queen mother. Eventually, God's punishment came down upon Ahaziah, the son of Jehoram and Athaliah, and Ahaziah died. Well, at that point, his mother, the queen mother, Athaliah, who was, you remember, the daughter of wicked King Ahab and Queen Jezebel, she became the queen of Judah. And so here there was a time in which no one from the line of David was sitting on the throne of David in Israel. You remember God had promised to David, one of your sons will always sit on the throne. And so here was a time when this was not happening. And for several years, Athaliah was queen of Judah, a wicked queen. In fact, she had all of her grandchildren put to death, her grandsons put to death, so that none of them could inherit the throne. Her desire was to do the work of Satan and eradicate the line of David so that God could not fulfill his promise. Whenever God puts a mark upon you, like he did with the line of David, you can know that Satan also is going to put a bullseye on you. And that's what happened to the line of David. And even Athaliah, the sweet old grandmother, desired to put all of her grandchildren to death so that God's promise could not be fulfilled. That, incidentally, is why there has always been such hatred and attack towards the Jewish people, because God has put his mark upon them. And Satan knows that if he can eradicate the Jews, he can thwart the promises and the intents of God. Well, as Athaliah was seeking to put all of her grandchildren to death, little did she know that the youngest of the line of David, a young man named Joash, just a little toddler, was hidden away into the temple of God. And there, a priest took care of Joash and hid him away for 6 years. But in time, Joash was raised up, and even just as a boy, the priest determined that it was time to allow the plan of God to come into place. And so he devised a plan. The Levites joined him in that plan. And one day in Jerusalem, they gathered together at the temple of God, and they crowned Joash king of Israel. Well, king of Judah, excuse me. And when Athaliah heard all the commotion going on with the new king, she rushed out, and there she saw this young King Joash with a crown on his head standing between the two pillars at the temple of God, and she shouted out, "Treason! Treason!" If ever there was a pot calling the kettle black, that was it. Well, the people saw through the charade, and they gathered together, and they had Athaliah put to death. And once again, one of the line of David was sitting upon the throne of Israel. God's plans are always going to be carried out. Do you know that we live in a day today when, much like the days of Athaliah, one from the line of David is not sitting on the throne in Jerusalem, reigning over the house of Jacob as the Lord has promised? And so what we have is the king, the promised king, being hidden away in the temple of God for a time until he comes again. And friend, when he comes again on that day, he will be crowned king by his own people, the Jews, and by all the peoples of the world. He will reign over the house of Jacob forever. Friend, in the shadows, God is working. Never despair. God bless you. We're in his grace.